everyone, it's Bryce with UT Kilts, and in this amazing video we're going to be comparing two different kilts. First, our own premium wool traditional kilt, and we're going to compare that to a hand-sewn made in Scotland by Lochcarron of Scotland traditional kilt as well. And I think you'll see a lot of surprises in this video and the differences and the similarities between these two kilts. But first, a couple of things. First, we specifically chose the tartans to compare here so that you know that they're from their respective place. So on the Lochcarron kilt, we chose the Forever Scotland Antique Tartan, and you can look it up. It's only available from Lochcarron, and they're the only ones that weave it. So in order to get the fabric, it has to come from there, and so that's where we got it. Our other one that we did was the New World Celt, and while I think there may be one other place that does that in a traditional wool kilt, I think we're the only ones, at least that I've been able to find, that make it. So you know that the two kilts we are comparing are from the places that we are saying. The premium, obviously from us, and the other one made by Lochcarron in Scotland. So we're going to be comparing quite a few different things during this video. There's over 12 different things of what we're going to be looking at, including the pleats, the fabric, the sewing, the inside liner, the belts, straps, the buckles, everything about the kilt we're going to be looking at in this particular video. One last thing before we get started with the comparison. I've made this intro video after all of the other comparison clips have been done. I was just so surprised at the similarities and the differences. There are differences between the two kilts. I had never done anything, I've never seen anything like this, and it's hard to even know or even notice these. I think the only reason I noticed a lot of them was because I was taking one off and putting one on, one right after the other. So it has allowed me to kind of see and feel the differences and similarities between the two kilts. So let's go ahead and let's take a look. All right, so let's do a quick unpackaging of the kilts. This is how they will show up at your house. Obviously they'll be in a shipping box, but this, when you pull it out, this is what they'll look like. If we start with the premium first, and set the Made in Scotland aside. If you did a special order, the flashes will be inside the package with it. If you did just an in-stock premium kilt and you ordered flashes, they'll just be in the box. They won't be inside the package. Now, one thing that you'll notice, and you'll see this on the other one, when you pull this out and open it up, some kilts do actually have a basting stitch, a thread that runs along, sometimes along the bottom, sometimes it'll be in the bottom and the middle, and I've seen them at the top, middle, and bottom. Now, having ordered kilts from lots of different places, some places do it and some places do not. On our premium, we do not. If you fold them right, correctly and put it into the package, you can see, even just by setting it down here, just this part that was folded needs a little bit of steam or iron, but again, that will happen on just about any kilt. So we don't do that on our premium, but I'll show you on the other one what that looks like. But this is what it'll look like coming straight out of the box. You can see the liner here, tag, the buckle straps, and everything. So that's what the premium one looks like coming out of the package. All right, so now let's look at the Made in Scotland kilt. This one, as mentioned, is was made by Lochcarron of Scotland in the Forever Scotland Antique Tartan. So you have your flashes, which we'll look at the differences there later. But if you pull it out and just lay it just out front, just like I did before, you might have to do a little bit of steaming just where it had been folded. But other than that, it looks great. It was folded properly when shipped to, so you're not going to see a lot of issues that you need to take care of. You can see the tag of that it was actually Lochcarron, and then on the back of the tag has what you ordered basically. You can see this one does have the basting stitches for the pleats. Like I mentioned, some places do that, like Lochcarron on their 5-yard casual ones don't do this, but on this one they do. So if you see that your kilt doesn't have that, it's okay, as long as it's folded correctly and shipped and not just shoved into a box, you'll be good and it'll look fantastic. But that's the unpackaging. of the kilt and the flashes and what you come with it, and let's go take a look at the differences between the two, the premium that we just saw and then the 8-yard made in Scotland kilt. So let's take a look at the flashes. So the premium flashes that come with our special order kilts, they are free, they are included with the kilt when you order it. The in-stock premiums don't include the flashes, but they can be added on. We keep them in stock as well. With the made in Scotland, never includes the flashes. You actually have to add that, and there is a button there that allows you to add them, and they do cost extra to have the flashes made. So here's some of the differences. You can see them already. If you line these up, this one's about an inch, maybe slightly less than an inch, but right around an inch longer on these, on the made in Scotland flashes. You'll also notice the design. This one does have two parts to the flash, one on top, which is more of a pointy edge, and then the one that has the opening at the bottom. That's how these ones do. Now each mill in Scotland where they make the kilts may be different, but this particular one from Lochcarron does not do that. It doesn't mean anyone's better than the other, it's just a different look with this. I would wear either one. They both look really nice. The other thing is the way they attach. These ones, and I'll hold this up so you can see, uses a buckle. It's a little nicer, seems a little nicer than what we use on the other one. The only thing behind this is the bulkiness of this, which can be seen sometimes through the sock. Not a lot. It'd be hard to see because it's down on your leg. You may or may not particularly like this way it does it, but they are nice, and you can adjust them to whatever you like with those. On the premium, they are Velcro, so you just undo the Velcro and strap it up to what you need. Makes it really simple, and it does make a bit of a lower profile when your hose is folded over it. So those are the differences of the flashes. All right, so let's go ahead and do a quick weight. Now keep in mind, the premium wool kilt, the New World Celt tartan, is made with slightly less material. We make those with between 6 to 8 yards depending on size, whereas the traditional hand-sewn one from Scotland usually start at close to 8 yards and go up from there depending on what size you get. So you will see some discrepancy in weight, but if we take a look, here is the New World Celt. Go ahead and put that in there, and we're sitting at about 2 pounds and 12 ounces roughly. If we pull this out and then we put in our Lochcarron, the Forever Scotland Antique tartan, and put that in, and we're at about 3 pounds and 3.7 ounces. So you can see they're pretty close. The Lochcarron, of course, is a little bit heavier, but it does have more material to it, so that is to be expected. Now we're going to go ahead and let's move on, and we'll look at the specific construction techniques between the two. All right, here we have our straps, and you can see there are some cosmetic differences, but as I'm feeling, they're about the same thickness. This one's round, this is more pointed. I mean, either way, I think they both work just as well. You can see that the New World Celt tartan kilt here, this strap does have an extra hole that the Lochcarron kilt does not, although you could probably quickly add one. Just punch a hole in there and it would work just as well. So you can see they have basically similar adjustments of about 3 inches or so total, depending on where you start from, the beginning or the middle, whether you go up some or down some. Anyways, so you can see that the construction there on the actual straps themselves are very, very similar. So the next thing I wanted to look at were the buckles. There's not really a huge difference here. They're pretty much the same size. I mean, there's a little bit difference in shape. These are actually slightly larger on the premium, which may make it easier slightly to get them in, but on the whole, these are pretty much the same on the premium wool kilt versus the made in Scotland hand-sewn kilt. Okay, so you can see on the fringe that the hand-sewn made in Scotland kilt has a triple fringe. Our both custom and in-stock wool kilts have the double fringe. This is going to be personal preference. Well, for ours, we do have the double fringe, and when you do order the traditional 8-yard from Scotland, at least Lochcarron does do a triple fringe. So again, this is going to be based on what the kilt maker decides to do. As a note, the casual or standard wool that's made in Scotland, the 4 to 5 yards, they do not have a triple fringe. They only have a double fringe on those. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the other construction techniques that were used on these kilts and how they're different and the same. You can see they're both sewn down to about the same area. Now, obviously, this can change depending on who's making it and what your measurements are. But with these kilts both being made for me, they're basically pretty much the same. If you look at this area just a little bit closer, and you may or may not be able to see this on the video, but these ones here, when they're sewn, they're actually tucked under and sewn underneath. They're not sewn on the outside, whereas the stitches run straight down here on the outside of the kilt. Just two different construction techniques. You have a hand sewn versus a machine sewn. They both look great, they both will feel great, but that is a difference between these two. All right, next let's just take a look at the belt loops. They both have two belt loops. You can see these two here and then these two up here. If we measure here from right where it's been sewn up to the very top, this is just under 4 inches, maybe 3 7/8. If we do the same here to where it's been sewn, this is about 3.5 roughly on this, so it's slightly smaller on these, but both would be sufficient to have your belt go through, and also a sporran chain or belt would be able to fit through there as well. All right, let's go ahead and take a closer look at the pleats on this one. We're gonna go ahead and measure just to see the differences here. So if I take my tape and measure the total pleat width there, you're looking at about 3.5 inches. If we pull this out and do the reveal, you're looking at about 7/8 inch reveal on this particular kilt. Let's go ahead and look at the Made in Scotland kilt. All right, let's take a look at the Made in Scotland kilt. Now I've got my tape in here already measuring. You can see it's at about 4.5 inches, and the reveal on these is about the same. It's about 7/8 inch. So the reveal on the actual pleats themselves is very, very similar, almost the same, but it's the depth. And what that gives you is basically more material, which we knew already that the Made in Scotland kilt has more material. It's an 8-yard kilt versus the premium ones that we keep in stock and custom order are between 6 and 8 yards, depending on the size. And since these are smaller sizes in the mid-30s, you would expect to see a bit more material on this one versus the other. All right, so the next thing I want to take a look at is what's on the inside of the kilt. Basically what we're looking at here is just the liner here of the kilt. You've noticed this is our premium here. You can kind of open it up and see kind of what it looks like, but what I've found, at least this is my personal opinion, that this is a softer liner than what you find on the kilt that is Made in Scotland. One thing to notice, and I'll show you on the other one in just a second as well, is on the premium hand sewn ones, they do scallop the kilts in the waist, and what that means is they take a lot of this excess material out, which we do not do on our premium. I've had 2 people in the last, I don't know how many years, actually ask about that. So it is one thing that is different, and I'll show you that with the next kilt. All right, so here's our Lochcarron, as you can see from the tag, Made in Scotland kilt. It's kind of hard, I don't have them side by side, but this one actually is a little bit longer on this particular kilt, and on the front and rear aprons, they actually do have it a little bit shorter. You can see this longer part only covers the pleats. Once it hits the front apron and the rear apron, they cut it quite a bit shorter. And if I show you on this side, you can see it even more. You can see how much difference in length there is on that, whereas ours is the premium one goes all the way across. So if we come back to this, the other thing here is this is actually sewn down, so I can't show you anything underneath. And I don't know if you can kind of see the indentation right here. This is where the scalloping happens, which I explained earlier. Our premium and in-stock wool kilts don't do that, but the traditional 8-yard kilts made from Scotland typically will have that, though I have seen some of them that do not do that, but most of them do. So those are the differences in the inside lining of the kilt. All right, so for this next test, we're gonna do something a little different. You can see I'm in a little different spot. I'm in my office where I do all my work typically during the day. And what I wanted to do was do a wrinkle kind of test. Now this proof is proving kind of to be a little bit difficult because I've never checked how my how these wrinkle. I just wear them and then hang them up. So what I decided to do is I'm gonna do a time lapse so you can see, and I'm just gonna work for the next, I don't know, hour and a half, 2 hours. And I'm in the traditional kilt that was made in Scotland, and I'll stand up and kind of aim this down just a little so you can see that I am in this kilt. And it's the one we've been discussing for a while. And so you can see after 2 hours what it will look like. I made sure everything was kind of mostly pretty much pressed well. So we're gonna see how well these wrinkle. And you can kind of see behind me, I'm in a mesh chair. Everyone's different, so it's kind of hard to test how it will wrinkle on different things and you know, different things like that. So I'm just gonna do what I do every day. So we'll do for the next 2 hours, and then we'll take a look when we're done. Okay, let's take the second one now. I've got the new World Celt, the other one we're comparing it to on. So we'll do the same thing. I'll be sitting in the exact same chair, sitting the same way, just doing what I normally do on an afternoon. So we'll see how this one looks after about a couple hours of sitting on it. Okay, so let's take a look at the results from our wrinkle test. You can see the handmade one from Scotland does have one wrinkle there that you can see. I couldn't see any others in that, and that was pretty good. Again, it was only 2 hours, but it did really well, and that's what we expected. Worsted wool is known for its kind of anti-wrinkle qualities and does not wrinkle as easily. Now, if we look at the premium one, I was a bit surprised, so we did the same thing, and it's hard to see, but there are a couple of wrinkles, a few more than the one made in Scotland, but they're kind of hard to see because of the kilt. But what was interesting about those is after a couple of hours, I went back and they were pretty much gone. So it was a lot more wrinkle resistant than I thought it would be. And what a lot of people will tell you when you look up the differences between woolen wool and worsted wool. Did it wrinkle more? Yes, there were more wrinkles there, but I think it wasn't as much as I had originally anticipated, and they don't stay in very long. So I think an overnight hang in the closet and you can probably eliminate most wrinkles that you have in your kilt. So that's our wrinkle test. All right, so now let's do our pleats swing test, because let's be honest, with a traditional kilt, you've got to have a really, really nice swing. So I came outside my shop to do this. It's a perfect day. It's overcast, so it's good for the camera to see. And what I'll do is I'll just do a walk in front of the camera so you can see each of the kilts and how they swing when they move, and then we'll compare them side by side. All right, so let's take a look at the swing of these two kilts. Now, putting them up side by side, just regular speed, to me, and this is just my opinion, but it looks like that hand-sewn 8-yard kilt has a bit more swing and move, swish to it than the premium. Not to say the premium's bad. It still has a really, really nice swing, but I think we're gonna get that with the other one, that better swing with the extra material, plus the worsted wool just does tend to have that better swing to it. If we slow it down to more of a slow motion type and we look at them, I think it's even more obvious, at least from my opinion, that you do get a bit more swing. But going to the premium, that's still a really, really nice moving kilt in the back, and I don't think anyone that at least that I know would be unhappy with a kilt that moves that well. So while that other one is better, I think the premium does hold its own and does do pretty well with the swing and the movement. All right, so there's our comparison of two different kilts. One made in Scotland, 8-yard hand sewn, versus our premium woolen wool. Different than the worsted wool from the other, not made in Scotland, made with less material, and you can see all the differences. Now, I don't want to sit here and talk and say, oh, the premium one is this so much better, or no, the one made in Scotland is so much better. I think you can come to that conclusion, what you think, on your own. And put your comments in the comments section. I would love to hear what you guys have to say after watching this and looking at it. Now, my overall thoughts and impressions are this. Is the one made in Scotland a better kilt? I think the answer is yes. The worsted wool is super nice, and for a traditional Scottish kilt, it's fantastic. Here's the problem. If we put price into the mix, if we're just looking at kilts, then yeah, it's a superior kilt. But when we put price into it, that changes everything. The premium kilt, or the one made in Scotland, on our website, if you buy straight from Lochcarron, can be close to $700. We have it just under $500, so it's basically a $500 kilt. The premium wool that we sell quite a bit of, is $140. So if you want to think, I mean, for the price of the one made in Scotland, you can get a lot of different and other kilts. Now, this is what I've always thought. And as soon as I was able to, I did this. I think everyone should own 1 or 2 kilts that were made in Scotland. For most of us, this includes me, if I was to go and order like 3 or 4 of those kilts and show up at my house, I don't know what my wife would do. In fact, I'm not sure I want to know. I mean, that's just not in the budget for most of us. We can't afford that. Getting this one was mine. This is it. And that's mostly because my family tartan is a custom weave, the one that I wanted, and I can't afford that. That's just a no-go. But this one I saved up for, and I was able to get it. And I think that's for most people what it's going to be, is you save up and you get the one you really, really want that you can't get anywhere else. Or maybe it's your really nice, let's say, as an example, it's right, you're a Stewart or a Gordon. Those are common. We can get them in the premium wool, but you want a super nice looking kilt, the one that's made in Scotland for your family. And I think it is a one or twice in a lifetime purchase for most of us. Now, there's some that may want more, and that's fantastic. But I think for the majority of us, it's maybe 1 or 2 kilts, and I have 2. I have one of the 8-yard and one of the 5-yard, and that's basically it. All I can do on those. All right, to finish up this video, the one thing I want to emphasize is that, you know, I've come up with my thoughts and my conclusions based on these, and I like them both, and they both have their advantages. Price, or, you know, being made in Scotland is really nice, but in the end, it's up to you. What's important for you, and is it worth it for you? That's what you have to decide. And feel free again to comment down below about what you think of what you saw. But in the end, I think the most important thing is to get the kilt you like, love it, wear it proudly, and don't be ashamed of it. It doesn't matter. I made a video, been a couple of years. I wore my ugliest kilt, the worst kilt I had. I wore it to church one day, and it's the one I've got the most compliments on. So don't let anyone tell you that your kilt that you love, that fits you great, that fits comfortable, is a bad kilt or looks bad. Don't let anyone say that to you. Be proud of what you wear and like it. Thank you everyone for your support. We wouldn't be UT Kilts without all of you. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email, Bryce with an I at utkilts.com. My phone number is 801-309-5113. Shoot me a text, and I'd be happy to discuss this with you, help you decide what works for you, what's best for you.